joyful water, fill your eyes can't believe they're mine. Now I'm basking in their light. I found joy. I found joy. Found joy in my life. Lately I've been reeling, watching the nightly news. Don't seem to find the rhythm, just wanna sing the blues. Feels like a song that never stops. Feels like it's never gonna. Gotta get that fire back in my bones before my heart turns into stone. So won't somebody please pass the megaphone? I'll shout it on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hear my prayer tonight. I'm singing to the sky. Give me strength to raise my voice. Let me testify. Oh, hear my prayer tonight. 'Cause this is do or die. The time has come sin, through the good and the bad. And I believe because I have joy rolling like thunder rumble. Time to let your teardrops tumble. Listen to the hedge crumble. Now that I have joy flying on the wings of angels, rattling the chains and tangle, see me from a different angle. Now I have joy.
Everybody get your hands in the air for Jesus. Hey, voices of fire. Let's go.
The last word doesn't come from the doctor. Who's the world that the doctor comes out of? Just keep praying beyond the last hour. Now you witness the procedure of power.
To myself, must think I'm crazy. When I'm humbling myself and I'm getting
If you promise any help, I know who can raise you. The meaning's a reaching. I go where he leads me to. More sin than them, I don't need you. When I testify, make sure I'm sure when I make the point of view. I'm through then. Dark situations can make them much brighter. Yeah. If your spirit's way down, he can make them much lighter. Yeah. You just taking off, you can go higher. Now let the joyful water fill your eyes. Oh,
Me and Fear, we had a thing in 1993. Told me I was wasting time with all these silly dreams. I dated out, she knocked me down every time I tried. But I found joy in my life. Sorrow swept me off my feet in 2009. I took long walks on the beach next to the oceans that we cried. In grief she came and overstayed way longer than I'd like. But I found joy in my life. I found joy, yeah, she opened up my eyes and gave me wings and halo rings and taught me how to fly. Ooh, I feel like a million lights. I found joy in my life. You got me like, yeah. Ooh, I found joy in my life. You got me like, yeah. Pressure pushed me to the edge, she worked me to the bone. And jealousy, she lied to me, said I needed things I don't. Shame, she had a way to make me hate myself inside. But I found joy in my life. I found joy on the loneliest of nights. I bought a rock, I tied the knot, now I'm making her my wife. Ooh, I feel like a million lights. I found joy in my life. It got me like, yeah. Ooh, I found joy in my life. It got me like, yeah. Ooh, I found joy in my life. There were days I did not know she would pack her bags and go. But that's my girl forever though. And she knows, she knows. I found joy and I kiss her every night. She gave me 2 more of her and I can't believe they're mine. Now I'm basking in their light. I found joy, I found joy. Yeah. Oh, I found joy in my life. Got me like, yeah. Oh, I found joy in my life. I found joy in my life.
Mr. Ray, are you somebody? 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 Mr. Ray, are you somebody?
I declare and I decree, any chain that has been holding me, any evil tongue that whispers in these ears, I said I rebuke you. You must leave my life. You are not welcome here. Lose your grip and set me free. Heaven, hear me now. I want to be free of every pain and every fear. The sadness has a grip on me and it must disappear. I'm letting it wash over me. I'm letting it all wash away. All of it, all of it. It must let go of me today. Cover me with your face, Father. Shelter me with your wings. I may cry through the night. I may cry through the night. I may cry through the night, but my joy comes in the morning. Joy. out to kill my dreams. But I know when I'm feeling alone, my spirit gets low. I know there's someone out there who's been praying for me. There's a war in your mind. Your sorrows may endure, but the light comes with the morning. It's what you're made for. It can't hide. It's supernatural. I may cry through the night, but my joy comes in the morning. Here comes my joy. Here comes my all of my joy. I may cry through the night, but my joy comes in the morning.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. Are you enjoying the brunch? Thank you, Nosh Squad, for all the work they did to put that together. I'm glad you guys are all enjoying it. I want to wish all the men in the house a happy Father's Day. Even if you are not a father, you were born to a father, so you can still celebrate Father's Day, right? So I hope you all got a bulletin when you came in this morning. The main thing I wanted to share with you today is in here we have a save the date for you. We're planning our second annual picnic up at Booth A, so we want to encourage you to save the date. Watch your bulletin. You'll get more details as it gets closer, but wanted to make sure you all plan on being there. It was fabulous last year. They do have access to the pool, so if you want to bring kids and go swimming, that's great as well. We do a barbecue at the end. It's just a great time. Also, there's a lot of hiking trails up there. So just want you to plan on saving the date, planning on being part of that. Oh, yes, and there are games. They will bring games as well. So plan on being there. It was really, really fun last year. So hopefully you save the date and plan on being present for that. Again, thank you for choosing to be here at Crosswalk. If you're new or a visitor for the first time, I encourage you to stop at our welcome table over here along the edge. And we have a little gift bag that we will give you that'll give you a little more information about our church and why we teach the way we do and what we teach about. It'll give you definitely some more information so you can figure out if we're a good fit for you. So hopefully you can stop by and pick one up. And then also we have some books over there available. So if you're looking for some really good reading material, if you're a new visitor for the first time, you can stop by and pick up one of those books as our gift to you. If you're not, you can buy one of those books for $10, which is quite a deal. But there's always great reading material available here at Crosswalk. So if you're looking for a good book for the summer, I would encourage you to stop by and pick one of those up over there. Okay, are you guys ready for our great service today? Yay.
Hey, did everybody hear that feedback? So every time we come to outdoor service for the first time, it always takes us a bit to get everything dialed in again. So thank you for this first rough rehearsal as we go through our first outdoor service. Aren't you glad to be outside again? All right, even if you don't, be excited. All right. As my singers join me up here, I have a welcome thing I want to take you through. And first, just a word about Father's Day. Father's Day and Mother's Day, on the one hand, are wonderful celebrations of healthy parents that did things really, really well. But for a lot of people, they also bring up a lot of difficult feelings. And I want to acknowledge that. And so sometimes, especially if on today, Father's Day, if there are some hard feelings about that particular voice in your life or the absence of that voice in your life that you wish was more pronounced, we just want to accept that that's reality. And borrowing a little bit from some of the themes of this joy book that we're learning from so much, that sometimes are the best we can do is accept that, yep, that was reality. And if there's any good I can think about where I am now that has some relationship to that, then that's okay. So how that might look for some people is maybe there were some human things about your father that you wish he would have done differently. And now you're the father or you're the parent, and so you're doing things differently. So it doesn't make it all better, but it's a statement of, I recognize what was, and I'm choosing this going forward. And that adds a tone of gratitude to it. And it can get much worse than that in terms of the acceptance of reality, but we just want to honor the fullness of what this day means. Does that make sense? All right. Thank you, Norman. We have a welcome thing for you if it's going to work. There we go. I've got some help from you today. Would you say this with me? This is a welcome statement just to remind us that we are all very messy human beings. Let's say it together. Welcome to Crosswalk. We are all equals here, all welcomed and affirmed, all lovely and messy human beings coming together in community to heal and renew and reset and restore and revision and reimagine our lives in the presence of the loving, living God, which you can't read because that's one of our technical difficulties we will solve next week. All right. We have a few songs that we're going to sing with you. These are reimagined classic hymns. So the first one we're going to do was known as This Is My Father's World, but we have a different rendering of this. So now it's This Is Our Sacred World. We have some new lyrics up here, so let's see if we can do this. All right. Go ahead and hit the next one. Thank you. Thank you. We all ended together. This one is a remake of Just As I Am. like I missed an entire verse there. Well, it happens. All right. Thank you for applauding that we missed the last verse. That's good. Appreciate that. So we continue on this story of this journey, rather, of joy and compassion. And you may have noticed that not only am I wearing Pride apparel today, but a particular type of Pride apparel today. Giants Pride and apparel. Any Giants fans out there still? All right. It's been a rough one. A week ago, this past Friday, a kerfuffle started because 4 pitchers chose to make a stand in different ways. 3 of the pitchers chose to write a Bible verse on their cap. Their ball caps had the SF logo, the San Francisco logo, but it was all in the Pride rainbow colors. And writing the Bible verse from Genesis 9 was their way of sort of reclaiming the rainbow according to their faith, and also a protest to the very Pride night that was being celebrated at Oracle Park. And when Lynn and I were watching the game, we're diehard fans, both of us immediately were like, this is not good. Something I can't believe this is what we're seeing here. And so I just want to talk a little bit, just very briefly, about the irony. And I think it's an irony. Ever since Alanis Morissette wrote that song called Irony, I get this confused. But I think it's an irony. Could be a paradox, but I think it's an irony. So you have baseball players who, are at the apex of their career, who are making a gazillion dollars, who are huge men, successful people, and they're taking their opportunity to make a statement against pride. And the vehicle they're choosing to use to make their statement against pride is a symbol of God saying to the whole world for all time, I am not a God that ever will condemn again. Isn't that crazy? That the Noah story in the Bible that we have, and by the way, this is the Jewish rendition of a story that is shared among cultures all over the globe, including indigenous peoples right here in the United States, the people in southern India, all over the place. You have ideas of this flood story. But the difference in the Jewish retelling of this story is that after this horrible thing happens, God comes back, doesn't feel good about things, and says, I'm never, ever going to do that again. I don't care how bad it gets. I'm never doing that again. And to give you a sign that I'm never going to do that. This is my promise to you that I will never condemn humanity for whatever. I'm giving you the rainbow to promise. And so I just want to say that that statement that they made shows that there hasn't been much biblical or theological reflection, first, on anything to do with the Bible and LGBTQ gender equality. And secondly, they obviously don't really know what story they're talking about, because it's probably the worst story they could ever have come up with to try to condemn the very thing that Pride celebrates. Are you with me at all on that? Okay, all right. So disgusting, and hopefully it will be addressed in a thoughtful way. So when we think about this idea of compassion as a pillar, this is the 7th of 8 pillars that the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu suggest are key to experiencing more joy in our life. In the book, on the next slide, Julio, from the Book of Joy, hit the arrow one more time. So what we see in that is that compassion became key in humanity's evolutionary survival. So it's really interesting. This is a hardwired thing into us as people. And not just people, but also the animal world. So it turns out that there have been studies about mice. And mice, when one mouse is injured in some way, another mouse will come up and start licking the injured mouse. And that care of the wound actually increases the healing time, or increases the overall healing of that injured mouse, unless compared to a mouse that wasn't taken care of. Is that making sense? I said that terribly. Yeah, you get the idea. Also, this idea of reciprocal altruism shows up early on in human development. So people figured out long ago that they are going to do much better if they work together with other people. I scratch my back, you scratch I scratch your back, you scratch my back. That's the American version. Then they figured out that we're going to survive a lot better if we take care of each other. So that makes sense. Studies with children say that children prefer toys that are going to help another kid rather than hinder another kid, which is also interesting. We know that there's a thing called helper's high. This isn't a form of weed. This is an actual experience when you do acts of compassion, where you experience feeling better about yourself. Have any of you ever experienced that? You're feeling down, but then you serve and you feel better. It's a real thing. Endorphins are released when we choose to act with compassion on people. And it turns out that compassion itself, acting compassionately, actually helps our heart health. Because when we help other people, it releases oxytocin into our system, which decreases inflammation and helps our overall well-being. Compassion is good for you. And so if you are lacking those areas of how to express your compassion, start finding a way to do it, because it will help you feel better about life, about everybody, and you'll be contributing to the world. Well, it turns out Jesus had something to say about this, so if you want to forward with me. He was well known for doing all kinds of things. This verse happens to show up toward the very end of his story, according to the Gospel of Matthew, where he tells this parable. So it's a parable, it's a story he's making up, right, to talk about a major thing. In this particular parable, he's talking about how we will be assessed in our life and what ways of living are going to draw us closer into the presence of God, which is our life and source and love and all that, and what behavior is going to keep us distant from the presence of God, life and love and peace and joy and all that. And the parable goes like this. To those who got it right, I want to tell you, you got it right because when you saw me struggling, naked, afraid, all these things, you reached out to me. You served me. You came with a cup of water. You tended to my wounds. You fed me when I needed help. When I was in prison, you visited me. And so these people feel great. They got it done. And then he says to the people who missed the mark, who lived their life differently, woe to you, who, when you saw me, I was naked, thirsty, wounded, imprisoned, and you did nothing to clothe me, you did nothing to give me water, you did nothing to feed me, you did nothing to visit me. Woe to you, you are apart from the presence of God. I'm mixing the words a little bit here. And the people who were in that camp said, well, we had no idea. When did this happen to you? And Jesus says, inasmuch as you've done it to the least, the most vulnerable people in the world, you have done this to me, or you have not done this to me. So apparently for Jesus, the number one measure of how are we doing in terms of following in the way of Jesus is, are we caring for other people in compassionate ways? Does that surprise anybody? No. In fact, Jesus is quite famous for his compassion. His two favorite or most well-known parables, the Good Samaritan and the Prodigal Son, both deal with compassion. The first one's obvious. There's this guy that gets wounded on his way from Jerusalem to Jericho. He's left for dead. Religious people pass by on the other side of the road, so they show no compassion to their own countrymen, their own fellow Jewish man. But it's a Samaritan who comes by. Samaritans were hated by Jews back then, makes the story shocking. It's the Samaritan that stops and sees the wounded man by the side of the road and chooses to stop in his tracks, to tend to his wounds, put him on his donkey, take him into Jericho, pay for his healing and his care while he goes away on business, comes back, promises to repay anything. And Jesus said, this is what it looks like to be a good neighbor. That's the story of the Good Samaritan. It is all about seeing the need of others and doing something about it with compassion. The prodigal son is like it. In this case, the person who is the least likely to show compassion is the father of the son who went away. Because the son could not have offended his father more. He's basically saying to dad, I really wish you were dead. So let's just cut to the chase. Give me my inheritance now, and we'll be done with each other. That's how cold it was. And after life did not turn out so good for the younger son, he comes crawling back, hoping to just be taken on as a servant. But the dad has none of it. He sees his son. He has empathy for his son. And so instead of not showing compassion, he fully restores him. Doesn't make him a servant, brings him right back into the fold just as it was before. This is a tremendous act of compassion that would have shocked any of the hearers. If you look at Jesus' not really biographies, or kind of biographies, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you take a look at his life, he's constantly going out of his way to take care of other people. He's literally getting off the beaten path and going into leper colonies to bring good news to them, to heal them. He's stopping in his tracks on his way to other places to heal people who have been rejected by the culture, bleeding women in particular, who've lost all their money on medical care, and Jesus stops, even while he's supposed to be going to help somebody else find healing, because that's what he does. He stops in his track to help a blind guy who's just struggling to get to a fountain where he thinks he's going to find healing, again and again and again. He stops in his tracks to help a tax collector who were hated in that day, as they are now. And and he chooses to help this guy right in his tracks. It says, we're having dinner tonight, which is an act of saying, I am showing great honor by inviting myself over. Sounds a little weird, but inviting myself over to your place to have dinner. Do I need to convince anybody here that Jesus was a compassionate human being? Are you with me on that? Can I get an amen? Well, thank you. I rarely get to do that, so thank you for playing along. On the next slide, we figure out that it wasn't just Jesus who got it, but Philip and the Ethiopian official. So this is after Jesus was gone, and now the new church is growing. And here's the story. There was this Ethiopian official. He was called the Ethiopian eunuch, if you look at the headline in your Bible, most likely. And he had just visited Jerusalem, wanted to go visit the temple. Maybe he was feeling out Judaism, we're not exactly sure. He could only get so far in the temple because he was a foreigner, he was a Gentile, and because of his condition. He was a eunuch. Sometime earlier in his life, he had surgery, he had castration, to make him a more reliable servant to the queen of Ethiopia. They did that kind of a thing back then. And so that castration meant that he could not enter into the fellowship of the temple by Jewish law. Philip is walking nearby the chariot, or whatever he's riding in, the carriage, and he hears this Ethiopian reading a scroll of Isaiah that he bought at the gift shop at the temple, I guess. And he can't make any sense of it. And he kind of says it out loud. And Philip overhears it, and he comes by and says, do you want me to give you some clarification on what you're reading? And the guy invites him into the carriage. Philip uses that as an opportunity, not just to talk about Judaism, but also to talk about the storyline with Jesus in this process. And the guy is completely won over by the grace of God understood through Jesus' story. And he says, is there any reason why I can't join you in this new way of being, this fellowship of this Jesus-following people? And he says, I don't think so. He says, is there anything that would hold me back from getting baptized, which is the official way of being fully welcomed and affirmed into the body? And Philip says, I can't think of a reason. So they came upon some body of water, and the Ethiopian got baptized right then and there. Can you for a second realize how radical that was? Back in that day, when he knew full well what he was doing. This was a person from a different country who was not Jewish, so he's Gentile, and he'd had a form of surgery which altered his sexuality. Do any of these things sound at all relevant to you today? And Philip had the audacity, because of the compassion he learned from Jesus, to boldly do this thing. Well, it wasn't just Philip. The Apostle Paul, next punch there, the Apostle Paul was famous for getting in trouble, blurring the lines, breaking barriers all over Mesopotamia. He's the guy that knew all 613 laws and said to the Jerusalem council, let's boil it down to 2 and we'll be good. I mean, this is radical. He's the guy that, even though he's often used and cited for keeping women in their place in church, which means less than men, at the very time he's saying that to a very specific context, he's calling a woman named Junia an apostle. And he has a woman as the pastor of a church in Philippi. So he's not that bad of a guy after all. He's more spacious than he's given credit for. And a region of church is called Galatia. He writes a letter because he's concerned because there are these other influences coming in from a conservative form of Judaism, which is telling these new gracious Jesus-following Jewish people to tighten things up. You're being too gracious. You got to follow the law more. And so Paul utters these brilliant thoughts. He says, in Christ there is no Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female. That's radical. That's saying that in Christ we are one. We are one humanity. And that's the only way to see it. So, do I need to go on any further to talk about how the followers of Jesus picked up on the compassion that they were taught from Jesus? Everybody on the same page with that? All right, very good. Well, the reason why I wanted to ask for that affirmation is because I don't think it would really matter much if I gave you more facts about why we should be compassionate. I don't think if I gave you more scientific data on what happens to your blood pressure or your heart rate or your brain science stuff, I don't think that would really motivate many of us to really embrace more compassionate living. I think something else has to shift. This is bigger than an intellectual thing. This is an eye and heart shift. And that's what I want to spend some time on. So on the next slide, Julio. Oh, yeah, there you go. I love this quote. It's attributed to Plato. Would you say it out loud with me? Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. This is one of those statements that I don't think it's in the Bible just like that, but it should be, right? Because it's so good. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Just saying it. Just say, put this on your bathroom mirror this week and just see what it does for you. Put this on your refrigerator this week. See what it does for you. Make this your screensaver for the week and see what it does for you. Just seeing this every day again and again reminds us to go a little easier on other people. On the next slide, we have a painting. How many of you were introduced to this painting at some time in your growing up years? I can think of a handful of times. Probably earliest was middle school, then high school and college again. And this was written by an artist named Andrew Wyeth in 1948, and it's entitled Christina's World. And I think the reason why it resonates so much is because even though this is just a painting of a woman crawling on the ground in some field, could be in Kansas or who knows where, on her way to her farmhouse, it evokes enormous emotion. What do you see here? What do you see? Why is this such a famous, highly regarded painting? If you were a little closer, you could see that her dress is pretty dirtied up. She's been crawling a while. You can tell from her hair, I think maybe something's in her hair from her journey to try to get home. And she's not even to the clearing yet, right? So she's in the thickest of the weeds, like kind of in the wilderness on her way. Not even to civilized mown grass just yet. It feels like it's forever away, where she really wants to be. Does that speak to anybody? Is that the human experience? We're not quite where we want to be. We're not there yet. We're struggling to get there. So in a sense, it's a story of resilience as well. Well, it turns out that this farm was the neighboring farm to Andrew Wyeth. And the reason it's entitled Christina's World is because that's Christina. And Christina had a condition where she lost the use of her legs early in her life. And she never wanted to be in a wheelchair for unknown reasons. And so she dragged herself everywhere around that farm. Her very life was a symbol of struggle and resilience. I'm going to get there. She's probably been here before. And she probably knows she can get this distance with enough work. this reminds us of ourselves. And when we hear the story, it gives us a different view of this Christina. We look at her with softer eyes. There is a poem written by Naomi Shihab Nye called Kindness. And we want to make sure the volume's up for this, Ted, so we can hear it pretty good. Instead of me reading her poem called Kindness, I wanted you to hear it yourself. So the next arrow, please. And that should bring it up.
Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend.
It's a bold, perhaps unwelcome poem. The first line, before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. And then at the last stanza, she says, before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. Because that is what connects us to humanity. That is what gives us eyes of empathy. When we ourselves have suffered, we are able to see and appreciate the suffering in other people. Rumi has this amazing quote, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. It just cuts to the heart of it. We squabble about this and that. What's right? What's in? Who's out? But at the end of the day, that is not the point. The point is to get beyond that and see each other in our full humanity and appreciate that. So I have an exercise that I want to just quickly take you through. Won't take long, and it requires your digits, your fingers to be exact. And so make sure everybody have operating fingers. Make sure these are working for you. All right. This is not hard. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and if you say yes to the thing that I'm saying, you just to yourself. You don't have to broadcast this, but you just, if it's a yes, you have put out a finger. Yes again, fingers. I think I have 8 or 9. Just keep putting the fingers out and see how many you got at the end. It's not a contest. There's no competition here for who gets the most finger, right? So don't think about that. But just answer this question and keep score with your fingers. So, first question. Have you ever been lonely? Have you ever been lied to? Have you ever been in a challenging relationship? Have you ever worried about having enough money? This is a long question coming up. It's only one finger. Have you struggled with some form of self-esteem, wondering if you were ever good enough, smart enough, good-looking enough, young enough, old enough, wise enough, funny enough, perfect enough, religious enough, etc.? Have you ever lived in a season of great stress? Have you ever suffered loss and had to deal with the grief it brings? Have you ever been afraid? Have any of these things you said yes to affected your decision-making process, the way you enter the world, your resilience, or your attitudes? You don't have to share this with anybody, but how many of you have a lot of fingers up? How many of you said pretty much yes to everything? Yeah. This is the human experience, isn't it? Now, say that again. So everybody pretty much had 9 fingers up, is that right? Look around. Look around. All these other people who are here, they said yes to the same 9 statements you did. The same 9 statements of your humanity. Plato was right. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. You know, just knowing that, even if we need to say it to ourselves, even as a way of accepting how we're feeling in a particular day, say, I'm feeling awful, I'm feeling terrible, I'm feeling beaten up, I feel all these things, just to end that expression, which is important to get out, but then say, and I know I'm not the only one. I wonder who I'm going to run into today who's feeling the same way. You see what happens? Did you feel any kind of a shift when you recognize that this isn't just about you and your pain, me and my pain, but that we all share this thing together? I feel like the more we can appreciate that as we enter and go through the world, the more empathy we're going to have and the more compassion we're going to have because we feel the pain of others. There's one person, though, that sometimes we fail to show compassion to. We struggle to show compassion to. And it's not political figures that you hate or baseball players that write on the bills of their caps or whoever else. But the one person that sometimes we really struggle to show compassion toward is ourselves. We can be forgiving and empathetic toward other people for their shortcomings. We can get over that, but for some reason, sometimes we have a real hard time letting go of our own stuff, forgiving ourselves, having compassion on ourselves. You know, during COVID, I had the privilege, it was a real honor to help serve the county and its COVID stuff by co-chairing 2 different groups that got together initially every week. One of the groups was for clergy. That's no shock, I'm clergy. So we'd get all the clergy on a Zoom call and communicate what the county was wanting us to know and try to be helpful in the ways that we could to pass that on. And then the other one was meeting together with, I don't know, it was probably 60 or so mental health workers and agency in Napa County. And hearing what they're seeing and communicating what we know, it was front row seat to everything that was going on. It was profound. But I think it was either in one of these meetings or somewhere afterwards where I heard somebody say a word of encouragement to a therapist who was experiencing compassion fatigue, which is a thing. They'd been giving so much of themselves that they were run out. They were out of gas, used up, and they needed encouragement. And so another person in the room just said, hey, I want you to know, you are enough. You are enough. And when I heard that, I said to myself, I have no idea what that means. No idea. But everybody else was nodding their heads. I was like, what am I missing here? What is the meaning of this? What do you mean? You are enough. I don't get it. And the more I reflected on this thing, because it bothered me. I'm a reasonably smart guy. I've not heard this before. I had no idea what it was talking about. And I realized I didn't know what you are enough meant because I had never believed it for myself. Ever. Part of it's my personality type. My moniker is the achiever. And the bummer about being an achiever, it's not the only force. I mean, my family of origin, we're all success driven, and our culture is very achievement oriented and celebrates that. That's how you know if you matter, if you have success in some way that's measurable. And so, in my personality type, that's a really big deal. And the bummer is that even if I achieve some level of success that I sought out to achieve, as soon as I achieve it, I think about all the things I could have done different that would have made it so much better, robbing the success and the feeling of achievement. Hearing somebody say, "You are enough," reminds us, American, Western, overworked people, that you are inherently valuable. You are inherently loved. You are enough just as a human being. Here's my exercise for you. If you have ever struggled, and if you are currently struggling with giving compassion to yourself, my wife pulls this trick on me all the time. If it's thinking about a leadership issue here at the church, or if it's something of a thing that I need to say to myself, she will say, "Well, tell me, Pastor Pete, if you were in your office and somebody came to you with the very thing you're talking about, how would you counsel them?" And I would tell myself, if I was the one in counseling, to know that you're deeply loved, that the divine sees everything about you and still embraces you, rejoices in you, loves you. Cut yourself some slack. Learn from whatever it is you feel so bad about, and know that in the learning of a different way, you are in some way ensuring that there will be a brighter future. That is the point. Not just to succeed, but just to be. And so I ask you to do the same. If you beat yourself up, if the first place you need to start having compassion is for yourself, which is wise, because Jesus, after all, said the two greatest commandments was first, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and second, love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, love your neighbor as well as much as you love yourself. But if you can't love yourself, how well are you going to love anybody else? So the same kind of compassion to that person that you have forgiven a mountain of stuff for. Think through the process you went through for that and turn it on yourself. Because you need to know that you are loved and you are enough. And if these eloquent words of mine are not enough to help you cross that threshold, there's good news. Because on our website, if you go under my teaching, there's a PDF that's attached to today's teaching, and it gives you 2 different websites which deal with this forgiveness issue, forgiveness of ourselves and forgiveness of others. Incredibly powerful, well-researched stuff. Did you know that the University of California has a whole department focused on forgiveness? And that resource is for you on the website if you go to my teaching. So check that out. So we know that compassion is good. We know that seeing with empathetic eyes helps us foster greater compassion for other people. How do we do it? What do we do? So I got a couple quotes for you. The next slide is from Roger Ebert. Anybody remember Roger Ebert, the great film critic? I loved him. He suffered debilitating effects from cancer treatment of his thyroid. They had to cut out his jaw completely. He couldn't speak anymore, but he could write. So after his surgery, after all of that, toward the end of his life, he said, "I believe that if, at the end of it all, according to our abilities, we have done something to make others a little happier and something to make ourselves a little happier, that is about the best we can do." And the quote continues on the next slide. "We must try to contribute joy to the world. That is true no matter what our problems, our health, our circumstances. We must try. I didn't always know this, and I am happy I lived long enough to find it out." He doesn't say solve all the problems. He says try to bring a little joy wherever you go. Sister Teresa on the next slide. I'm sure you've seen this quote before. "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." Anybody seen that one before? Yeah. Remember the story I shared with you a couple weeks ago about guy named Anthony Ray Hinton. This was the guy that was wrongly accused of a horrible crime that landed him in prison for 30 years. Do you remember that story? And there was no way he could have committed the crime because he was at work in a locked facility the entire time the crime had been committed. And do you remember that I told you that the police, while they were arresting him, told him, you're being arrested for being black. And the courts fell right into play. This is in the deep South where this is not terribly surprising that such things happen. After 30 years, the good news, in case you missed it a couple weeks ago, you can breathe a little easier, because after 30 years in prison, his case went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Isn't it crazy that the lower courts in the state couldn't figure this one out? So it had to go all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court looked at it and dismissed his case, and he was free after 30 years. And I shared the case with you, the story with you, because it shows up in the book, particularly in the chapter on gratitude. Because this guy chose not to live with bitterness on all he had lost, but chose to focus on gratitude for being free, being out, and not missing a moment of the freedom that he was now enjoying. But he didn't always have that attitude. When he was thrown in jail, in solitary confinement, on death row, he said that for the first period of time, he was anything but joyful. He was angry. He was bitter. He wouldn't speak to anyone, even prison guards. If they asked him a question, he would not give them the gift of his voice. He would write down his response on a piece of paper and hand it to them. He was furious for 4 years. Can you imagine? 4 years of being in that kind of rage. It changed one night when he heard the cellmate next door sobbing uncontrollably. And something in him shifted. And he called out to his neighbor, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And the inmate next door said, "I just found out that my mother passed away." And Anthony Ray Hinton immediately empathized with this man's losing his mother. And for a moment, he realized none of his bitterness and rage mattered. And all he could do was offer words of support. Even tried to make a little joke, which was welcome at that time. From that day on, he was changed. He would walk throughout the prison wherever he was, and he was no longer about his own bitterness and his own rage and how he'd been mistreated. He began to be more interested in how everybody else was doing. And the more he empathized with what everybody else was doing and showing them compassion, helping wherever he could, he discovered that his own countenance was relieved and heightened. He experienced more joy just by being compassionate toward other people in pain. He instituted a process. You've probably seen this in the movies. He's the guy that started it at this particular prison. That as people would march to their death in death row, to the electric chair, they knew what time the switch was going to be flipped. And just before that switch was to be flipped, he got everybody else on death row to take a tin cup and start raking it across the bars as loud as they possibly could, yell at the top of their lungs as loud as they possibly could, because they knew that that guy in that chair felt incredibly alone, because it was very possible he was the only one there to experience his fate absolutely alone. But Hinton wanted to make sure that guy knew he was not alone. Isn't that remarkable? Guys on death row cared about another guy about to lose his life so much that they were willing to shout at the top of their lungs, which probably could have gotten them in trouble, because they wanted to be sure that their brother knew that they were remembered, cared for, loved. Remarkable. Remarkable the power of getting beyond our own pain and suffering, accepting it, realizing it, processing it, but then remembering every single person we meet is going through something has gone through something, will go through something. It changes our eyes. It changes our hearts. You don't have to change the world. But maybe you can offer a smile as you check out from Trader Joe's. Remember that goofy smile exercise we did a few weeks ago? I won't make you do that again, but it works. There is a poem that we're close to ending with here by Mary Oliver, who's a tremendous poet here in America. And this particular poem is called Wild Geese. You ever seen wild geese flying up in the sky in their V formation, which they do for efficiency? It's quite remarkable to learn why they fly in this particular formation. Let me ask you, raise your hand, have you ever seen the V formation with the birds and everything, right? Have you ever heard the geese up in the sky? What do they sound like on the count of three? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, very good. They're squawking away as the geese are gaggling or whatever they're doing up there. I don't know if that's the right word. Well, so this is called Wild Geese. To think about that wild geese V formation as an invitation. So next slide. Again, it's here.
Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
Would you join me in prayer before we have a final benediction? I encourage you to just sit in the space here and listen. Life in so many forms is humming all around us. People on the road, birds singing, bugs buzzing, breeze. We're a part of it. We are one because we are all a part of this one thing, this extraordinary thing called life. With all of its pain and all of its joy, we all share it. I want to invite you now, if you're so willing, to think about a person or a group of people that you've had a hard time showing compassion or feeling compassionate about. I want you to just hold them in your attention for just a moment. And you may have all the reason in the world to hate them, to want to hold on to your unforgiveness, restrict any kind of kindness. I get it. We've all been there. We might all be there. But as you think about this person or these people or whatever, I want you to remember the exercise that we went through of all the fingers that you said yes with, all the points of pain that you know have been true of you. And I want you to realize that this group of people or person that you struggle to give compassion to has had the same problems, the same issues, the same struggles, the same deep sorrow. I want want you to think about yourself. You may find it very easy to tell somebody that you love, like your child or your spouse or a dear friend, how much they are loved, inherently loved. Now it's time that you show that same level of compassion and care toward yourself, because you are. Imagine seeing yourself. Take it further. Imagine seeing yourself as a baby, crying from the pain and the sorrow of all the suffering you know. That's you. What are you going to do with that crying baby? You're going to go pick it up. You're going to go pick you up. You're going to hold that little baby tight. You're going to rock a little bit. You're going to soothe that baby as best you can. You're going to kiss it on the head. And you're going to say, there. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You are loved. You are loved. God, as we go forth from this place, may your spirit of love and compassion continue to fashion empathetic eyes that see the world around us not as villains, not as enemies, but as fellow human beings on the same journey. Help us see what unites us more than separates us, and help us lead with love, grace, shalom, that our compassion might bring more joy into the world through the people that we're compassionate toward, and as a wonderful gift of fruit, more joy for ourselves as well. I ask this in the name of Jesus, who we follow. Amen. On the final screen, next screen, I ask you to say this benediction out loud with me. Let's do it. May we believe Jesus enough to know we are loved. May we empathize with others as equally struggling human beings. May we be graceful toward ourselves. May we be graceful toward all others. May our compassion foster joy. Amen. Thanks for being here today on our first outdoor service. I hope you enjoyed it. If you can stick around and help us collapse these tables in here and put them on the carts back there, that would be really, really helpful. Thanks for coming. See you next week.